nearly 8 time zones. I'm extremely excited to welcome all of you today to the FTTH Council MENA September webinar. Our warm welcome extends to our members and their partners, and we hope all of you join us if you are not in the council and you leave today's webinar with value you can take to your daily work. I would like to thank our council member Corning as well in accepting our invitation to this initiative and leading today's webinar with a special matter expert, Mr. Jerry Morla, addressing one key component of a successful FTTH rollout, which is the learning and developing part. Mr. Jerry will lead today's session titled Lessons Learned from FTTH Workforce Development Programs in the MENA region. Let me go and introduce today's speaker. Mr. Jerry Morla is a program manager of a technical services and training for Corning Optical Communications Engineering Services headquartered in North Carolina, US. With over 20 years in the industry, Mr. Jerry brings us experience from fiber deployment and the training projects in the MENA region, the Americas, and Europe. Besides his extensive experience in the fiber optics field, Mr. Jerry has years of experience teaching for US universities and serving as director and master instructor for the Fiber Optic Association. For all our attendees today, we would take questions towards the end of Mr. Jerry's presentation, so I will ask you to be patient and hold your questions to the Q&A session. Mr. Jerry, I'm very happy to welcome you today, and I believe I borrowed a few extra minutes of your time, so I will step aside and give you the full floor. Thank you, Mr. Jerry.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. First, thank you for making this time. I hope that we can share some insights here and have a good time. Okay, so first, thank you to the Fiber to the Home Council in the MENA region for granting this invitation. I'm very blessed to work for Corning Optical Communications, who developed the first low loss optical fiber and has played a very prominent role globally in deployment of fiber optic networks, having delivered billions of miles of fibers around the world. Over the last decade, I have spent most of the decade, working in the Middle East, North Africa area, and mainly working with implementation of training programs for tier one and tier one operators and government organizations. So today, we're just going to share some of the lessons learned from those experiences. If you guys don't mind, I would like to kindly ask you using the chat box to the right of your control panel. Just let us know where you're at. If you can please put the country where you're at, just so that we can get a feel of where the audience is located at and where you're joining us from. Okay. Do you guys have access to the public? Super.
If you would like, at the end of our webinar, so you can see all our attendees from where and all the details that you are looking for.
Yep. Now I want to get to know the audience and also make sure there are opportunities for connecting. Okay, perfect. So we got people from many countries here. This is awesome. So I'm going to encourage you that if you have any questions, so that you don't forget, just go ahead and write the question in the chat box. Okay, and we might not get to it until the Q&A question, the Q&A part towards the end of the webinar. But if it's something quick, we might address it along the way. Okay, we have planned to deliver this presentation in 45 minutes. We're probably going to do it in a little bit less time. Okay, so just hang with us, and we'll get to your questions soon enough. All right. So today's agenda. So today we're going to talk about program planning, program design, resource recruitment, classroom delivery, online and blended delivery. Is anyone in the audience familiar with online learning? Has anybody gotten enough of online learning this year? I'm pretty sure everybody has, right? Okay, good. So we're going to talk. Yeah, excellent. We're going to talk a little bit about that today, and as it respect to fiber training. Okay, we're going to talk about assessment-based approach, feedback and coaching, performance management, program leadership, and lastly Q&A section. Okay, so a little bit of background on where. On the material or the lessons learned we're about to share, okay? Most of these are gonna come from our experiences working in Saudi, okay? Corning has played a prominent role in Saudi, partnering with tier one operators and government entities, right, to help deploy fiber networks to support the National Transformation Program, okay, the famous MBB, to support the Vision 2030 initiative. Okay, so part of one of our accomplishments in part of the local operators is we established 6 training labs throughout the kingdom. Okay, and we implemented train the trainer program to support trainers all over the country. Okay, to implement a large-scale training program. Okay, and we also going to glean from experiences that we gather supporting government organizations in Egypt and tier one operators of the country. Okay, as many of you might have heard, Egypt is going through tremendous revolution in terms of telecom upgrading. Okay, they have a new Cairo project. They're basically working on building a new capital, administrative capital, as you call it, right? To help alleviate some of the population density and infrastructure issues in the capital, and this is a massive project. If you're not familiar with it, I invite you to Google it. Google ACUD, as you see here on the screen, and you're going to see a lot of amazing initiatives that they have going in Egypt right now. So what happens in order to support all this upgrades countrywide, right? So you need product, of course, but you also need qualified workforce, right? Because now you're not talking about your standard level of fiber crews to design and deploy these networks. You need support from. You need to add thousands and thousands of people, right, in order to see the implementation successfully. Okay, so based on these experiences, we're going to share some of the methods, techniques, and strategies that helped us deliver results that have been of great benefit to the stakeholders in the region. Okay. So the first thing that we might have to pay a closer look to is the training program scope, definition, and objectives, because large-scale workforce development programs are not your traditional training session, right? So now for this type of program, we have to be more strategic, and we have to make sure that we manage the interest of all the stakeholders, right, with a long-term view in order to design and implement training projects successfully. Okay, so from the client and the stakeholders standpoint. We want to look at what is it that they're after. Okay, sometimes in smaller companies they just want to get people certified or professional development for their technicians or technical force, right? But in this type of large scale rollout, right? There might be other issues that the customers are more interested in tackling, such as, for example, quality in the deployment, because now you have thousands of new technicians deploying, installing networks that they probably didn't have that much experience before starting in this project, right? So there might be some quality issues that we need to work to prevent, or and sometimes even correct. Okay, so we want to identify issues like this. What is it that they want to get out of the program? Okay, so let's say technical delivery and quality. Also, workforce readiness. Okay, as you guys know, in large scale programs, there's a lot of planning involved. Okay, you cannot say we're gonna deploy 400,000 home pass next year, more than we have over the last 10 years, right? With the same number of related technicians. Okay, so you have to plan for workforce readiness, right, ahead of time. Also, deployment process quality. If the stakeholders and the technical personnel involved in the project are not very well familiar with all the aspects of the technical rollout, this might lead to problems in quality of the deployment itself. Okay, so perhaps instead of the stakeholders wanting the technicians to know the difference between a single mode fiber and a multi-mode fiber, right? Maybe what they want is to ensure that everybody understands what the process of installation is. Okay, in order to increase collaboration, decrease inefficiencies, right, and maximize effectiveness. Okay. Also, something that we want to take in consideration are the learner goals. When the learners come to the classroom, what is it that they want? Some learners, they just want training. I know some learners that they want to have all the certifications, and to them this is motivating. Okay, but there are other ones that they just want to improve their performance, right? If they're contractors, right, they might have different interests for their workforce. So we have to make sure that before we design, we learn what these goals are from the wide audience of learners. And this might require conducting surveys, one-on-one interviews. All right, you're going to have to do a lot of due diligence ahead of time. Just to give you an example, one of the training programs that we deliver at Corning, which in my opinion it was very successful. We were awarded, we received awards and everything. So we believe that the clients and stakeholders were very happy with the program. That program, we spent almost a year, okay, a year designing and planning. We talked to the stakeholders. We had many meetings. Okay, this type of training is not just sending a syllabus, training content, preparing a PowerPoint, and some hands-on exercises. Now, why is all this important? I feel that this is especially important in these times because, as you guys have seen, due to all the global issues, challenges that we're going through, most operators are looking to accelerate the rate of deployment to fiber to the home, right? Especially in these urban areas. I read this week that in Saudi, they're planning, their aim is to increase fiber to the home or homes connected penetration in urban areas to over 80%. Okay, so that's massive. That's challenging. So this is why looking at this type of training approach is especially important in these times. Okay. Also, you want to make sure that you are very well familiar and have good understanding of what is the optical the constraints are. And there can be many constraints, okay? Some of them are facilities, technology, and resources, right? That's a very universal constraint. Now, in the term of facilities and technology, this might be especially challenging in large scale programs. Why? Because logistics are not going to be the same everywhere you go in different regions or parts of large countries that are undergoing all this development. Okay. So also the technology. Let me give you one example. I once had this grand idea that we were going to use this mobile app for this training, right? But when we actually started talking to the client and started talking to the technicians and doing our surveys, we found that a great portion, large population of the technicians did not live in areas with adequate internet access, right? So if they don't have adequate internet access, right, the assumption that we were going to be able to deploy a training program leveraging online tools and enhanced media, okay, was not the best approach because of the technology available to them, right? Internet access, mobile phones, tablets, computers. We have worked with some clients in which simply, a good portion of the technicians populations, they don't have good computers. Okay, so these are things that you have to take in consideration when you're looking into rolling out a program into the thousands of technicians. Okay. All right. So something else that we want to do is design for alignment. Okay. The Fiber Optic Association has been very supportive and collaborated with us greatly in many of these rollouts that we've done in the region. And something that the Fiber Optic Association uses as a baseline for design is what we call the KSAs. And first time I said KSA in Saudi Arabia, everybody was happy, right? Because they're thinking Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. No, it was KSA for knowledge, skills, and abilities. Okay. So we have to make sure that we understand what are the hands-on skills, right, that are desired. These are our outcomes from the program, right? We also need to look at the knowledge, what level of knowledge we want to deliver and transfer. Okay, a lot of these trainings they're so heavy in theory that it's not practical to the technician, right? So you want to make sure that you have a good balance between knowledge transfer and skills development. Okay. And also we want to take the dimensional abilities into consideration when we design a program. Okay, because some of the depending on the equipment, the equipment that's being deployed, the areas and everything, there might be intricacies, there might be details that have to be covered, and the technicians might have to have specific abilities, right, and skills in order to complete. So we want to make sure that we want to align with the KSS. Okay. Also, we want to align these, right, and the learning objectives, right, with the overall architecture of the program. Some other factors that we need to take in consideration are the experience level, right, the learning styles, cultural background, and computer literacy of the learners. All right. Some learners come to the classroom with 20 years of experience, but it might be 20 years of experience working with copper networks. So in this case, they might have to do some unlearning before they can learn new concepts related to fiber optics, right? I'm sure a lot of us have run into this. I myself had to do some unlearning, right? And we always have, it's a process that we always have to continue doing, unlearn so we can learn new technologies and innovation. Also, learning styles. Some students they like to they learn better by hearing, some others by seeing, and most technicians that I know learn better by doing. Okay, so make sure that you have a good balance of these as you design your programs. And this has become a little bit challenging in the COVID era, right? Where we have shifted a lot of our training online, right? Because many instructors ask, how do we do this hands-on labs online? How can we have this palette of resources and techniques to use and properly implemented in the virtual space? Well, that's a challenge that we are all working through or learning as we go. Okay, the good thing is that things are not going to stay like this forever. Okay, hopefully very soon we're going to be able to start going back to some level of normalcy in terms of being able to share a physical classroom and have a little bit more freedom to integrate some strategies and techniques to cater to this diversity of audience. Okay, computer literacy and internet access again are also very important. Sometimes in large scale training programs, what we have, we see a whole gamut of backgrounds, right? And some of the people, they might have not been so exposed to online learning or even using computers for learning, right? Sometimes we have to spend a little bit of time helping learners set up their computers and find the right links and log in to the LMS system so that we can get going. Okay, so something else is that you want to design for ecosystem integration. If you want to do something big, if you want to do a large deployment, you're not going to do this alone. Okay, so the more support that you have, the easier it's going to be for you. Okay, so one of the things that some of the things that we learned is that it helped us tremendously to identify who were other technology vendors that were related to the project. And I'm going to use in Saudi, I'm going to use one vendor as an example. It was a test equipment vendor, right? They had a prominent role in the project. Most contractors were using their equipment, and it was preferred by the client, right? So we partner with this vendor who supported us in developing and aligning material. That way, the training led to outcomes that would help technicians better utilize the test equipment, right? Which would have a direct impact on the quality and performance of the overall rollout. Not only that, but by partnering with the test equipment vendor, right, they were able to bring their equipment to the classrooms, right, and that way the technicians got firsthand look to and firsthand training on the equipment that they were going to be using in the rollout. Okay. Also, you want to partner with installation contractors. If you have a good communication with the installation contractors and you take their inputs and concerns into your design, you're going to find that some of them are going to be very supportive. And they can support in many ways, simply by motivating their employees to be on schedule, to put more time that they need into preparing with equipment, right? We have been to places where the contractors, they're very willingly send their technicians with their full gear, right? Test tools and all that. And which makes the training go a little bit easier, because again, remember that you're planning here for training people in the thousands, right? Hundreds and thousands. So the more support you have in that sense, the better it will be. Also, you want to be in alignment with your design and PMO consultants. Why? Because they have a lot to say. So they share a lot of inputs with the operators, right? Into the technical specifications, performance, and rollout requirements, right? So the best approach is to bring them to the table also and see what are their concerns, what are their interests, and how we can better align so that their needs are also supported and met. Okay. let me tell you, in this day and age, if you don't have a win-win strategy, it's gonna be very hard. Okay, if you're thinking about implementing a large scale training program, you have to have a win-win mindset. Okay, because if not, someone's gonna either make it very easy or very hard for you to progress. All right. Lastly, something that we learned is that we benefited a lot with partnering with the local distribution channels. Why? Very simple. They already have all the logistical setup, right, to be able to get equipment in and out of the country, right? And they have facilities, and they have tools, and they have materials and consumables, usually on hand. Okay, so there was several times that we ran into logistical issues when you're planning for a training program that's going to go beyond a year, maybe 2 years, right? I assure you, there's going to be hiccups along the way. It's normal. Okay, but in risk management, right, what we do is we put in a contingency plan, right, in order to help us overcome those little challenges. So partnering with the local distribution channel, it was just a very successful strategy. Okay. Also, we have to design for alignment and look at the communication styles and multicultural factors. Okay, some learners come from so many different cultural backgrounds, and sometimes the language, the communication might be difficult. Okay, so what we found is that in order to make it easier for them to understand and for us to communicate, was to integrate a lot of visual aids, visual support. Use icons on your presentations. Use props, demos. Okay, don't just stand there and lecture people, because after 5 minutes you're gonna put yourself to sleep. Okay, so try to integrate visual aids, visual support. Okay, make it fun. Let me share a secret. Let me share a secret about training. Okay, ultimately training comes down to knowledge transfer. Okay, the first time I went to the Middle East, I heard some of the clients say, we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars every year in training, but when all these big companies leave, we never know what we learn, right? We never know what we learn. So that right there, in a technical term for that is, they could not validate, right, that the knowledge that they paid for had been transferred. Okay, so you want, that's what you want to aim for, that the knowledge is actually transferred. And and here's the secret. The best weapon you have to ensure the highest level of knowledge transfer is engagement. If you can keep people engaged, right, it's like a fiber connection. All right, it's transmitting and it's receiving. But if you have something, right, that's making that connection less effective, what you have is loss of signal, right? So you lose data, you lose information. So you want to make sure that you design for engagement. Okay. In some cases, we ran into a few challenges in the area of resource recruitment, right, and trainer selection. Why? Because at the early stages of the program, right, all the stakeholders are still learning. So even if we spend a year trying to communicate vision and agreeing in things, right, it is very different when you're discussing something at concept level that when you see it materialize. Okay, so once everybody started seeing the program materialize, right, we were having aha moments all over the place. Oh, right. So some of the stakeholders, right, that were leading the part of recruitment and selection, right, might have changed their minds on how they initially went about it. Okay, in some cases when we got there, instead of conducting a train the trainer, we had to shift to a make the trainer, okay? And it worked out fine. It worked out fine because we were able to quickly adapt, right, and overcome the challenge. My personal opinion, I actually even liked it because, sometimes when you train trainers, they'll have their ways of doing things, and it's really hard to get them to change their mind. Whereas if you're making the trainer, right, most of it is going to be new to them, so they're more open to learning and agreeing and accepting. And in my case, I have to admit that I actually enjoyed working with this make the trainer approach instead of the train the trainer. So make sure when we're working at this that we look for technical expertise, okay, and very importantly, communications, the ability communications ability. Okay, so some people are very, very, very bright, okay, and very, very, very skillful, but if they're not good at communicating, they might not do so well in a classroom. Okay, so you want to make sure as you select people for your trainer programs that they can communicate. Okay, and how do we validate that ability? Well, we conduct online interviews, we conduct one-on-one interviews, we have mock presentations when they present on topics, and we ask questions and exchange ideas and test them. All right, see how they would behave in front of a classroom, which takes us to the next point, which is leadership. Okay, you can have a lot of knowledge, you can have even great management skills, but trainers that are poor in the area of leadership usually are less successful than the ones that are strong in the area of leadership. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the leadership portion towards the end of the presentation. Okay, so next you want to make sure you get professional references. Okay, and so for people that you trust, because everybody can ask. I can ask my son to give me a reference, right? But we want to make sure that we set up a criteria to what we are going to use to accept, right, to qualify a reference. All right. Also, something else that we want to use are online assessment. So by conducting online assessment, not only we learn from the candidate, but also we see how well they perform working with the technical platforms. Okay, if you give an assessment to someone that can't find a way around the platform, well, that might be a flag. Okay, especially if they're going to be leading a full classroom. And also make sure that the training sessions are very oriented to demo presentations. And in order to ensure that the candidates are good at this, have them conduct demo presentations in front of you. In the COVID area, we asked them to make short videos, right, and present on any specific topic so that we can gauge their demonstration skills and abilities. Okay, so you can be creative. I know there are some limitations due to the physical distance and all that, but we can get creative because we still have to get the job done. Okay, there's more people than ever, not only wanting but needing Fiverr, so that they can continue working, going to school, and trying to live their life as close to business as usual, right? As before we had all these limitations, all right? So next thing is that we wanna make sure that our presentations are demonstration based, that we use interactive applications. Today, because of the time limitation, right? I'm not using interactive applications. I wish we would have had more time to use this, because with interactive applications you allow the audience to interact with you, through the presentation, right? Using computer mediated systems and apps. Okay, so from my point of view, I'm like, okay, I can have half the people in the room that pretend they're paying attention, but they're looking at Facebook or whatever on their phones, right? Or I can ask them to set up apps on their mobiles and use integrate the application through the presentation to keep them engaged. And the latter usually works best. People are usually become more engaged when you integrate interactive applications into your presentations. Also, make sure you have adequate spacing, flexibility, high quality audiovisual systems, and enhanced media. Okay. For in terms of the hands-on labs, we want to make sure also that they're realistic. Okay. I've seen some pretty pitiful scenarios of training, okay, where you know the materials that are being used are just some samples that somebody got from the back of the warehouse that been there for 10 years and are obsolete, and then they have to kind of adapt them to conduct the training because someone didn't want to spend right money on the latest equipment. Well, that's not going to work in this type of program, okay? Because you don't have time to correct knowledge along the way. You want to make sure that they get realistic knowledge, they get realistic practice, and that they not that they practice enough so that they cannot get it wrong. I'm sorry, so they get it right. But you want to ensure that they practice enough so that they cannot get it wrong. Make sense? Now, think about this. If they get it wrong, then you have problems with the customers. Then you have added rollouts. It's increased costs. It's just a lot of issues, a lot of time and resources that you want to shift back into the rollout. Okay, so when you set up your hands-on lab, you also want to arrange it for flow. Okay, so if you see at this layout, this is just a sample layout that I have for a classroom that we built according to the facilities that the client had at that location. So let me see if I can have a pointer here. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can see the pointer. So make sure that as an instructor, right, you can walk in, you can walk out, and you can interact, engage, and give coaching. Okay, sometimes I've seen some classrooms that are set up like all regular, you know, elementary school, you know, back in my time. Okay, and this is not conducive to good engagement. You want to set up your classroom in a way that you can walk in and out at any time and give personal one-to-one coaching and feedback to the technician and help them. Okay, so also you want to arrange for you want to have an ergonomic setup, because if you don't have good lighting, if you don't have good chairs, if you don't have good space, all right, the work is not going to be efficient. You're going to have too many hiccups that are going to detract and distract, right, from the lessons and the objectives. Okay. All right. So on the LMS area, anybody here familiar with integrating LMS into your classroom? Just give me a quick show of hand if you can, or just put yes or no in the chat box. Okay, we have one. Anybody else? Okay. Hey, chat. Okay. All right. Perfect. So the LMS, this is still a great area in the area of fiber training for many companies. Okay. Again, going from what we learned in this rollouts in the MENA region, is that the best approach to using an online learning management system is not to use it as your sole method of training, but to integrate it into the classroom. Okay, so whereas traditionally these systems are used so students can conduct their lessons online. We bring them to the classroom in order to boost and give us greater capability to push and pull information, to share materials, to share presentations. We can share deliverables through a learning management system, and it can help us, to better manage the program, collect data, and analyze at a grand scale. Okay, it also helps a lot with reporting. Okay. Right. So assessment. So it's very important, not only for the benefit of the learner, but for the benefit of the program and stakeholders, right? That assessment is conducted at the beginning, during, and after the course end. Okay. Why? Because this is gonna help us know where we need to start out, right? At the beginning of the program, how to gauge, control, and align throughout the program in order to achieve the learning objectives, and towards the end of the program to make sure that we deliver on the learning objectives. Okay. And there are different methods of assessments that we can use, and tools. We can use quizzes, LMS assignments, hands-on exercises, spot questions, etc. It's very important that you provide both formative and summative feedback. Formative feedback is the feedback that you give out throughout the course, and summative at the end of the course. Okay. Usually after summative feedback, there's no more that you can do at that point with the learner, other than give them direction for continuing training, and to ingrain a lifelong learning mentality. Okay. This fiber business is not like I took a training today and I got a certificate and I'm done. No, I have to continue getting training. Okay. Because the technologies evolve. All right. It's always changing. We don't install fiber, and we don't work with fiber the same way we did 20 years ago. All right. So we want to instill this in the learning community. Okay. So feedback, you can provide knowledge assessment at the beginning of the course, not only to the learners, but also to the managers, so that they know more or less where their students are at, right? Where the technicians are at in terms of learning. During hands-on, also, you provide coaching and feedback to support goals attainment. The focus must be on building or enhancing skills that are aligned with the learning objectives of the program. Okay. And then lastly, the final test. With the final test, right, by comparing that to the results of the assessments at the beginning of the course, it's better for you it helps you articulate better, right? What were the objectives achieved, and what were the areas of strength and the areas of weakness during the course. Okay. So always provide feedback with opportunities for improvement. Something else that we use that worked really well, and actually I've seen that other organizations are now starting to implement this, is a feedback scorecards. Okay. In school language, we also call them rubrics. Basically, what these are is just support tools that we give the learner to help them self-assess as they go about their implementation of their hands-on exercises. We can organize this in domain areas according to activity groups. For example, we can have one for safety, right? We can have one for splicing. What are the things that you're checking for when you're evaluating the learner, and how did they conduct splicing? So you can create scorecards and have a color-coded approach to exceed, meet, meets work, or does not meet, right? It's an easy way to give feedback. Now, if you have 10 people in a classroom, it'd probably be hard for the instructor to go checking each one of these boxes for every student, right? So basically, in my case, what I do is I only focus on the areas that they need to enhance, right? And everything else, I just mark it as green. Just focus on the feedback that's going to help them build skills and enhance. Otherwise, just leave it green. Okay. So the idea is not to be overly meticulous, but the idea is to actually have a system. Okay, and a system that is standardized. Because if you don't have a standardized system, your instructor in one city might be doing the evaluation very differently than an instructor in a different city. Okay, Lastly, these scorecards can be embedded in the online learning management system, which will help for you to be able to grab quick statistics and make your charts and make your reporting a lot easier. Okay, so also use KPI-based progress tracking and reporting. Make sure that the KPIs, the key performance indicators that you're going to use to gauge, monitor progress, are agreed upon with the stakeholders at the beginning. Make sure you communicate them to your learners, right? That way you can focus on those and ensure and ensure that you're progressing positively towards goals achievement. If you don't have this clearly identified and clearly communicate, right, it's going to be very hard to keep everybody in one sheet of music. Okay, so this is just an easy way to make sure that we can track and communicate and identify issues that we might have to intervene. All right, so use the data from the management system to identify trends, learning gaps. You might find out through the analysis of LMS data that most learners are performing weekly, are weak in the area of connector cleaning. Okay, so you might be able to more easily identify that by looking at your stats from the learning management system. So if you have 1,000 students and 400 are failing in that area, so you know what? In the next round of training, you might want to increase the time spent on cleaning connectors, right, rather than reading markings on the cable. That's just hypothetical example. Also, make sure that you measure your delivered value, the knowledge transfer, and that you do by comparing before and after results. Okay. If you don't do this, you walk away and you really don't know if the learners had real improvement, and much less how much improvement they had. So this is very important that you do it. Plan to report to learners and plan to report to supervisors and stakeholders. Okay, so the learners might need more granularity in their evaluation reports so they can better assess the areas of improvement, the areas where they're doing well, right? The supervisors might not be so much interested on whether they did better with the SC connector than the LC connector. You know what I mean? But perhaps less granular, more general KPI based report. It might be easier to socialize among supervisors and outside stakeholders. Okay, and lastly, the area of leadership. Okay, we found that it was key to apply the goal setting leadership theory, which in essence says that if you take a challenge and you break it down in small pieces that are challenging, that are time bound, that are quantity bound, with that will require enough effort, right? Not just something that will bore the learner, but something that will challenge them. This will help motivate them. Okay. If you give them something that's really big and daunting, they might get overwhelmed by just looking at it, and you might lose them on day one. They might be disengaged. Okay, you want to make sure that you provide clear direction, communicate objectives, and give them a roadmap for success. Okay, and have collateral to help articulate this. Create your printouts, give them the printouts, give them the method of procedure before a hands-on exercise. Okay, put drawings on the walls, put diagrams, things that make it easier for them to understand. This is what I need to deliver. Okay, the more you provide, increase your structural support for the program, the more consistency you're also going to have throughout the different sessions of the program. Okay. Assess students' motivations, traits, and attitudes for relationship building. The best way to engage with someone is to connect with them. Let them know that you are sincerely interested in their development. Okay, and that you are there to help them. Okay. Learners don't exist because instructors exist because of the learners. Okay, allow students to share their experiences from the field and allow constructive discussion. Okay, so very different when you're teaching in an academic setting than when you're teaching technicians, because technicians usually have all this life experience and field experiences and stories. Okay, do allow do allow them to share, express. It's going to help. This is going to help connecting better. It might present opportunities for reshaping the way they saw training, and they saw fiber work. Okay, encourage positive attitudes, collaboration, and camaraderie, and do your best to make the training experience engaging. Okay. Lastly, inspire greatness and pride. I would like to close with this story. Okay, which to me it was very impacting. It was a blessing to hear. Okay, so in one of these programs, on the first day, I shared a story, and this was the story. I personally started in the fiber field over 20 years ago, and I was first introduced to it by my father back in the 80s. I was a teenager, and he said, "Hey, come to work with me. I want to show you." I was growing up, so he wanted to pass on his hard work values and all that. So I went with him, and he showed me all this fiber stuff, and it was amazing, all this. But I never thought at that point that I would learn fiber. I just saw it as like, okay, my dad was working with some cables. Okay. After I went to the military service, and after I got out of the military service, my father has started a business in fiber optics, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to come work with me? I'll teach you fiber, and who knows, it might open doors for you. You might see the world." And I'm like, I don't know if I agree with you. That just looks like putting cables together. I want to learn accounting or finance or something more interesting. So it just so happened that I gave it a try. And I started working with fiber optics, and maybe close to 10 years after that, I was leading a project in South America. So it was maybe 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning, and we're working on a site, an outside plant, and the police came. They came in the motorcycles, and they had machine guns and everything. It was crazy because I wasn't used to seeing that, right? Just for being out working with fiber optics, and I explained to the police. I'm like, "Look, we're here working on that cable. This is an optical node that we're trying to connect," and I just just give them an overall orientation. And one of them looked at me and he said, "Wow, so this art brought you all the way to the side of the world." And from that moment, something clicked in my mind. I started seeing fiber as an artwork, right? Something that I could get good at, and something that I could be proud of, right? And that engagement changed my perspective. So I shared this story on the first day of this program, right, in the area. And 3 weeks later, when we were getting the feedback from the supervisors, one of the supervisors stood up and he said, "Mr. Jerry, this is why this program has been different for us and why we feel we did so well. On the first day, you taught us that this is something that we could see as an art and be proud of. And from that moment, we saw this differently." So by just sharing that story without even knowing, I was just sincerely just sharing a story, right? It inspired them to see fiber training, to better understand that they actually had a mission, that they had a higher purpose than what they thought before. So it was no longer about putting cables together, but it was about changing the life and increasing the quality of life of stakeholders globally. Okay. So with this, thank you for your time. I'm gonna leave the floor open for a few minutes for some questions and comments. Okay. So again, thank you. I hope you were able to glean a couple of good ideas from this presentation.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Jerry, for so much for the informative session. I would like to ask our attendees if they have any questions to type it in the chat area, please. I guess, Mr. Jerry, there is one comment from Nergis in the ecosystem. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, there are legislative and procedural aspects, but these are very specific to the country, right? So, we will have to have another space to discuss this. Nevertheless, here's my email address. If Abasi wants to contact me, and we can perhaps discuss that offline later. Okay.
Perfect. Perfect. So they are asking you what are your plans for India?
For India, so that's great. So far, usually our training programs, we have one of our colleagues, Rohit, right? He's usually heading that part of the world. We meet every so often in Berlin, where we do train the trainer development programs for the MENA region. So if you would like to share your contact information with me, that's my email address. I can put you in touch with him. Okay. I can also put you in touch with our training organizers from the
Perfect.
MENA region that are in Berlin. Okay.
Perfect. There is one comment also from Mr. Samuel. Hi, Jerry. Quite brilliant session on workforce training from a corporate standpoint. What will be the pattern you can suggest based on your extensive experience for an individual to get trained, maybe to be a trainer? Suggested checkpoints, mentors.
Yes. Very good question and points. So I having a mentor is key, and having a mentor and or coach is key in professional development in any area. Okay, I have been blessed to have access to great mentors in Corning, also in the Fiber Optic Association that have helped me along the way in my personal development. So the first thing that I would recommend is to try to be in touch with other instructors, okay, and identify opportunities for engagement. Also, Corning offers some train the trainer programs where usually provide a good opportunity for aspiring instructors to come in and not only learn from the latest technical aspects of fiber training, but also on how to conduct training. Okay, so again, if I'm willing to share more information on that, kindly my email address is in the chat box, and feel free to contact me after the presentation. Okay.
Perfect. Mr. Chad also is thanking you as a former technician and someone who has attended multiple classes with Mr. Jury. He said, I can say that all the topics discussed briefly touch on the depth of knowledge his team can give.
Yes, absolutely, and thanks, Chad. Yeah, this is a very broad audience, right? And it's a webinar, so we're limited by space and time. So unfortunately, we could not go too in depth with more technical aspects. The goal was more about sharing some of the lessons learned, right, from a large scale training program. So yes, thank you, Chad. Chad is also a great man. I've known him for years. Thank you, Chad.
Perfect. So, Mr. Jerry, thank you for the value and experience you offer today to our audience. I hope all attendees had such a great and informative session as much as I did today. Looking forward to welcome all of our attendees to our next webinar. We will announce all the details soon. Thank you very much, Mr. Jerry, for your time. I believe it's early morning now in US, and you gave us this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everyone. And please feel free to contact me. I'm going to put my email address here, and let's stay in touch, okay?
Perfect. And I have to thank Patricia, by the way, from the marketing in Corning. She did a great job.
Yes. Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Lena. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.